Welcome to Creatives Grab Coffee, the podcast on the business of video production.
Creatives Grab Coffee is hosted by Dario Nuri and Kirill Lazarov from Labs Productions. Our goal is to share knowledge and experiences from video production professionals around the world. Whether you're a freelancer looking to start your own business or a seasoned business owner aiming to scale your company, this is the show for you.
Join us as we develop a community of like-minded creatives looking to learn and help each other grow. Welcome to the business of video production. Welcome to Creatives Grab Coffee.
Before we get started with the show, let's go over today's sponsors.
Do you have a shoot in Toronto? Do you need crew or a strong production partner to help you with your project? Labs Productions is one of the top production companies in Toronto and your go-to video partner.
With our strong creative skills and extensive network, we can help you achieve your goal. Labs Productions is able to offer you production services, white label services, or finder fees for project handoffs.
Reach out to us on our website at lapsproductions.com to learn more.
My name is Miran. Welcome to Canada Film Equipment. We are a boutique rental house based in Toronto. We are here to help you guys out with all production sizes. Feel free to contact us to get a quote if you are a production house and you're looking for lighting, camera packages, or lighting and grid fan packages. You can see our contact information in the link below. We are more than happy to help you guys out. Make sure you follow and subscribe to creativesgrabcoffee.com. Thank you.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Matt. Welcome to Audio Process. We are a boutique audio company doing location sound, sound design, post-sound, ADR, Foley. We service equipment. We do all your audio needs here in Toronto. We got you covered. Come on down, audioprocess.ca. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and all of the other internet things to creativesgrabcoffee.com. They'll be waiting for you. I'll be waiting for you, and we're all going to have a real good time.
And now, let's begin the show. Alrighty, here we go. Today we got a special episode for Creatives Grab Coffee. This is our first episode with not one, not two, but three guests. Surprisingly, all from the same company. Welcome, Rise Media. We got Mike, Dan, and Mark. How's it going, guys?
Yo, how we doing?
Hello. Yeah, very good, thank you. Very good.
All right, so before we kind of jump into it, give us a little bit of a background about you guys and Rise Media.
Cool. So we're a small video production company based in South London. We're a team of 9, and we've been operating for, well, since 2011. It's quite some time now. Myself, Mark, and Dan founded it whilst we were at uni. And the kind of work that we do is pretty broad, to be fair. We sort of span everything from events to branded content and commercials. Yeah. Dan, do you want to tell us a little bit about how we met?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Well,
sounds like a love story.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably the more interesting part of. It's an interesting part of Rise, really. So the three of us were all friends before the company started. Mark and I have actually known each other since nursery, so like day dot, really, isn't it? What when we were about 2?
Minute.
Yeah, it's been a hot minute. Yeah, so we've known each other for a very long time. And then around the age of 15 was when we met Mike. That was all through parkour and free running. So at that sort of age, we were all jumping around, launching ourselves off stuff. And I think what goes hand in hand with that is cameras and filming stuff. It's a bit like the skate scene. When you're doing stupid stuff, you want to film yourself. And I think that's kind of where our love for camera developed. I guess also with the whole... We grew up in that kind of MTV generations. There was no YouTube. It was all just like...
Jackass.
Yeah, Jackass and that kind of stuff. Yeah, so we were doing lots of stupid stuff, thinking we were celebrities, and filming ourselves doing stupid things. And then that developed into almost doing like little comedy sketches, little scenes like that. And that's where it kind of stayed for a long time. And then when it got to around, college kind of years, we were making more kind of refined pieces of work, maybe. I might have said that back then. Looking back on it now, maybe not refined, yeah. Let's not show any of our old films today. But then we went off to university, and me and Mark turned up there on the first day. We were doing digital film and screen arts was the name of the course, and lo and behold, Mike's there, and we're like, oh, Mike.
Yeah, and that's kind of where we got close. It's funny because until uni, we were friends. We were good friends.
Not anymore.
But we weren't. Yeah, we've fallen out in the 10 years since. No, at school times, Mark and Dan were kind of rivals in a way, because they were the other guys who were jumping off stuff and filming themselves. So I had my little lot of friends, and we were doing our stuff, and you guys were doing your stuff.
Yeah.
And in the end, it was a bit of a match made in heaven, because we ended up going to uni together and working on things.
That's right. Yeah,
as a team. So there was a bit of competition to begin with.
We were from different schools, and we kind of had like we're both doing the same thing, both trying to film ourselves doing parkour and stuff, and there was this rivalry, wasn't there? Yeah.
Yeah. We have mutual friends. You'd always hear about, what Mike's been up to. He's just done a double backflip or something like that. And just compete with us. And then bumped into him at uni, and we were with him for 3 years at university. Lived together. We started doing music videos first at university, didn't we? Like as a three. Started the company. Was it second year of uni? It's pretty similar to you guys, right?
Year.
So I looked on your website. It sounds like it's similar.
We did the same. Yeah, we started working together, doing videos for the student groups at our uni, and we were getting paid for it, so it was funding the hobby. And then when we graduated, we're like, let's take a chance. Columbus did, and here we are 10 years later.
Yeah, that's spot on. Like we were fortunate enough where our course allowed us to submit work and coursework as a group rather than as individuals. So the three of us, and I think we had some others, didn't we, as well? There was other people in our team, so we were submitting work which was being paid for. So we were doing music videos, submitting that as coursework, and it was nothing. We weren't getting
a couple hundred quid, but we were
a couple $100, but still for us it was like, wow, we're getting paid to film stuff now, and it was a good feeling. And then when it came to the end of university, we kind of thought, well, let's just give this a go and keep doing it. I mean, we started in the company formed in 2011, but it was actually around 2014 when we all were fully in. The first 3-4 years was kind of, I was doing little bits here and there, freelancing. All three of us were doing our own little bits, but we kept kind of putting our money collectively back in that pot. And then we had enough to buy our own camera, then a bit of lighting, and before we knew it, that pot had kind of grown and the equipment had grown. The funny, remember we used to work out of my parents' living room, and at the time our kit store was the cupboard under their stairs.
I remember that.
That was our kit storage was under the stairs, and now just imagine getting all our stuff under there, be no chance.
It's crazy. It's crazy when you think, and I'm sure it's the same with you guys. You don't necessarily notice the change as it happens. You always think, I'm working hard, and sort of like, okay, we've got a new client, we've got a new camera, and then it's all of a sudden I've got another member of staff, and then it's, oh my god, we've got a whole kit room and a team of 9.
Yeah, it's
so what changed for you guys? What changed for you guys? Where for the first couple of years you guys were still freelancing, doing your own thing. Like, what was the change of where you guys can?
Do you want to pick up on that,
as
Mike?
a company?
Yeah, I mean, the first few years, obviously, for anyone starting a company, it's hard. I think especially in video, because you're not only limited as to the clients that you can win, but you're also limited as to like the kit you've got and the budgets that you're working with. So it was really freelancing. We had our own things going on, and we kind of funnel that money through one company account and save. And the time that I knew that we were probably onto a winner was a large publishing company, News UK, got in touch with us, and it was through a freelancer. I used to do a lot of Steadicam, GlideCam stuff. That was kind of my thing, and I was doing GlideCam on a job, and a guy said, my flatmate she works at News UK, and they're looking for a company to take over their events. And obviously I thought at the time we're too small for that, but we pitched for it and we won it, and it was the first time that we actually had a contract in place with a forecast of work. So what was it, Denmark? Was it a year's worth of events, or it was like a preferred supplier type thing?
Yeah, I think
it was something
preferred supplier for the first year.
It was something tangible where we could be like, we know that we've got at least some work, for the next year. So that's where it changed, was really that first win of an actual bit of repeat work.
I think more than anything that was just like a massive confidence booster, because we went from being like feeling a little bit like kids with cameras to like walking into like a big glass building, going into a boardroom, sitting down with people and winning a pitch, and it was like, okay, this is real now, like we've got a real job. Like a real project to work on.
And so off the back of that, we pretty much, so News Corp's obviously massive organization. They've got different brands, so we kind of bounced around within the brands inside that company. So that was a good bit of growth. And then our second large client, Hearst Magazines, came on board through word of mouth. And that was a really similar thing. So a large publishing company with lots of brands. They've got Esquire, Men's Health, Women's Health, Harper's Bazaar, Elle, amazing brands. And it was mainly editorial work and events that we started with for those guys. But that was the changing point, wasn't it? I think having two large clients really changed the game
Pretty
for
back
us.
to back that, and it changed everything for us.
Yeah.
I think we did a good job, though. I think of, even though we were all doing our own freelance thing, we all still kind of pitched for stuff, and the kind of front was always Rise. It was always this collective, like the team, you know. So even though we were all kind of, it might have been a job that I had won, but I'd still market myself as Rise Media, and I think that's boded well for us. And that kind of team attitude, to be honest, is still a massive part of who we are today. It's kind of carried through, I think, to the kind of ethos of the whole company. You know, a team of 9 now, but everyone here are friends, aren't they? It's all really nice.
Yeah.
Well, also, like, in the beginning, when you guys are kind of starting out a business like this, especially when you don't know the business as you're starting it, you're also trying to learn. And freelancing is one of the best ways to do that, because then you get onto certain projects you otherwise wouldn't be able to get as a starting production company.
Absolutely.
Like Dara and I have mentioned many years that up until like the pandemic, it was almost as if we were just two freelancers that happened to be working together on our own projects, but we were also still freelancing a lot with like different companies, so we can learn, grow our networks, meet other people, because also you also have to make money to live, right? Because that was the biggest challenge. And when you have 2 partners, it can be tricky, but I can't imagine like with 3 people all trying to work towards the same goal. You know, everyone still has their own different financial goals and like financial needs, and so that was really the only way for you guys to kind of really build a foundation, a solid foundation, so that you could actually grow a business from it, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean, having the 3 of us is, you know, it's fairly unusual to 3 co-founders, but it's been a bit of a blessing in disguise, I think, because, you know, there's never a split decision. There's always a 2 or 1, 2v1. So whatever comes up, but there's always a decision made. You can't have like an odd number, an even numbers rather.
Does that cause problems?
Yeah, like, I was going to ask about that. How is decision making done between 3? Because always there's a loser, technically.
Yeah, I think the key is that the 3 of us are friends before business partners, aren't we? I mean, that's always the way. And so, you know, we've everyone's got an ego, but I don't think any of us have egos so big that we can't. You know, we get the message. If 2 people are against another one, we kind of take the back seat and go, okay. You guys.
I think as well, we've just been fortunate in the fact that the 3 of us have got very different skill sets. You know, Mark's very technically minded, Dan's very sort of hands-on production sort of minded, and I'm very sort of like people person minded. So between the 3 of us, I think we all recognise that we know what we're good at and we know what the others are good at, and I think that helps a lot with decision making.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a
Technical
project,
mind doesn't really come through in this current image, but yeah.
Well, we're talking to Mike, Dan, and Mark, the friends, right? But also the business partners second, right? Yeah, having that level of building a level of trust and understanding of like what everyone's strengths and weaknesses are, what their roles are in the business is very key to have like good to maintain good relationships. Because Dario and I, because there's 2 of us, if ever we're coming at it like a how do you say, an impasse, you know, on something, it can get very difficult. But that was back in the day when we were kind of both doing a little bit of everything.
Happens.
It's still like it's normal. It still happens, right? But now we have more set roles in terms of like what we're responsible for. So we kind of let the other person handle those aspects of the business, because it helps make things a lot easier. And you know, we trust each other. You know, it's been now 10 years that we've been doing this, so there is a level of trust built on a foundation like that.
I did want to go back to the decision making, you know, 2v1 and whatnot. Like, the answer you guys gave is very logical, but sometimes when you're having to make decisions, there's the emotional aspect as well. So how do you guys overcome that? Because again, it's 3 people, so it's a little trickier, especially if 2 team up on 1.
And if it's like the same, like it's more so like if it happens, does it happen frequently where it's like the same 2 versus the same one.
It is a real mix.
Honestly,
it's a real mix.
With
Kit,
hung out too
with
much.
Kit, it's usually me and Dan v Mike. Actually, when it comes to kit purchases, like we've got, want to buy new lenses or want to buy a 4D. Mike always wants the 4D. We always want the lenses.
Yeah.
But yeah, with Kit, it's usually me and Dan v Mike. But everything else is random, I'd say.
I think that like in the moment you can I'm just trying to think like actually back to the last time there was like a decision that we made where I was the person that was against it. I think maybe in that moment, like you said, Dario, there's a bit of an emotion or something, but as soon as I go home I just forget about it and just come back to work the next day and it's just like,
Yeah. What was the last big decision we had to make?
You put trust in. I have trust in you guys. That's it. If you two think one thing that I don't, there must be something wrong with what I'm thinking.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it's just quite a unique thing. We've spent a lot of time together. I mean, at uni we literally lived together, so and you guys went to primary school together, and then the first time I met Mark, he tried to do. He was trying to do a backflip, and he couldn't backflip, and I was like, "Look, man, I'll spot you. You put your hand under his lower back, and I'll spin you around, and like, there's no way you'll land on your head." That's what I said to him. I've never seen anyone drop on their head. First thing he does is jump up, I bodge it, he comes down on the back of his head. That was the first time I met Mark. So
exactly what you said would not happen.
You guys have
very trusting.
A high level of trust. Yeah, it's going back to the backflipping.
It's like the trust fall,
Yeah.
I just went up, tucked my legs, and just went into a little egg, and then just fell like an egg, just straight onto my head.
I have no idea how you guys do that.
Well, we're still. I wouldn't say we're in that scene, are we? But we know a lot of people who are. The London free running and parkour scene was pretty big, and still it's probably bigger than ever now.
And it crosses into production massively.
Yeah.
A lot of the freerunners that we used to train with are now like professional stunt people, or they've gone on to become DOPs or directors themselves, which is really nice.
Yeah, that was something I think brought up before, wasn't it? That there's a lot of people we've noticed have come from that. I'll be talking to like a Steadicam operator or another camera operator, and a lot of the time they've come from this extreme sports background. Like whether it's we've got mate Brendan and Nick. Both used to be into wakeboarding, love wakeboarding, used to shoot that.
Claudio Voicu, amazing director.
Yeah, skateboarders, BMXers. It seems to be a bit of a trend, I find, of like, and maybe it's just that thing.
At least in London. Well, I don't know in Canada if that's a thing or not so much.
I have been noticing with a lot of guests that will be coming on, like if they're into like outdoor content or anything like that, they do have a background in being in that sport, right? Because I guess it translates well because they're filming themselves and each other, and then they get good at it, and they're like, "Well, I like it, so I might as well just go into it." Yeah,
and I think when you're at that age, the chances are your career as a professional parkour athlete isn't going to take off, but you've still learnt skills from camera work and filming, and then you're like, "Oh, okay, I've got this though, so maybe I can use that."
Yeah.
So it's not so those who can't do teach. It's so those who can't do film it as it happens.
Yeah. I think that's kind of how it works. Going back
but
to
it also makes sense though, because you're basically you have a close understanding, and you're almost like an expert of the subject matter and how that sport or hobby or whatever it is you're into, like unfolds itself. So you're able to tell stories that are pretty authentic as well. In regards to it, and then that becomes a little bit more of your thing as like a good foundation for like a baseline. Whereas, like for example, Dario and I, when we started, we were in our business school and no one else was doing video there, so there were a lot of student-run organizations that were acting like little mini businesses in the university, and they all needed video content. Like 2013, 2014 was the year when independent video was kind of like everyone wanted to have their own video for whatever it could be, no matter how small. And so that's how we built our foundation with a lot of businesses, finance companies, in that sector, because we had that first exposure there. Okay. It doesn't sound as glamorous or as cool as, parkour jumping or wilderness hiking or anything
Probably
like
paid
that.
more money though, mate.
Yeah. I mean, it was student groups. It was student groups, so you don't really make money.
They did pay though at the time compared to like, working at Hollister or something. It was money.
Yeah. Well, I made sure we were getting paid at least something. It's not a lot, but at least like I think the first few projects was like $150 a video. Yeah. But it was almost surprising that it was like, hey, we're actually getting paid to shoot video while we're in university. It was almost like, it almost felt like a little cheat code, you know?
Yeah, I do feel
Sounds
like we
really
got lucky
similar
with the
to us.
timing of it a little bit as well, because the transition into like DSLRs, you know, when we were at university, everything was all quite camcorder, like EX3s and all that kind of thing, and then the 5D Mark II came out, and that's when we got into it, and then like camera equipment was suddenly quite accessible, you know, and you could just get a 5D Mark II, slap a 50mm 1.4 in it, and everything looked really good, and it was just easy to make cool
And
content,
the glide
you know,
cam.
and affordable. And the glide cam.
The glide
The
cam.
glide
Still
cam
can't
was-
balance that to this day.
Yeah, he was
So-
never good at balancing it. I was the
I
glide
don't think
cam
I
guy.
don't think I ever balanced it. Like,
We
but
still
now
have
I'm-
our
yeah.
I'm
we
good with
still
a
have our
gimbal
old
now.
glide cam, and we're
Yeah.
considering putting it up on the wall as a sort of
Ooh, I
relic.
threw that out as soon as
Oh,
I could.
I have it in the back. I have it in the back
Have you
right
got
there
it?
as like a trophy with the
Yeah,
That's
that's
it.
it.
with the
It's a
Canon
trophy now.
T2 with the Canon T2i, which was the first camera that I started shooting videos with. So now that's just on my mantle there. It's like this was the first tool that made me money.
I was going to ask you
Yeah.
guys, like, what kind of kit did you guys start with? Did you do the whole like Canon to like Sony transition that kind of seemed to
and
happen?
then we're back with Canon now.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
We went full circle.
Yeah.
Well, we switched back to Canon because in 2019, because at the time we were with the A7S2s, and we've mentioned many times where that camera had a lot of great features, which is why everyone got it, but the look of it was just absolutely horrid, and you had
the
to do
batteries.
so much. Oh yeah, the battery aspect too. I mean, to be fair, like Canon's
dealing with that right
R5C is terrible for
really?
batteries too.
Oh, really?
But that's besides the point. The point was that like the look of it was always a hassle for post production, and you always, even like a simple interview, you had to do quite a bit to just make it look even natural, right? And we got really tired of that workflow, and so we saw how a lot of other shooters that we had worked with in the past, they were just shooting with Canons, and their footage was always so easy to work with in post. So we just decided to switch over to Canon, and kind of stuck there now. So
Yeah.
That's cool though. We pretty much went Canon and then moved over to Sony at the A7S Mark II sort of time. Had a couple of those, and then it was FS7 after that.
FS7,
And
Yeah, the
then
Sony
FX6.
FS7.
And now we're running pretty much 3 FX6s and 2 A7S Mark IIIs for all our event type stuff. And we had a red Gemini which did us really well for years that we loved. That was kind of our bigger setup. But we've actually just sold the Gemini, so we're in the market now for a new bigger cam.
Yeah, we found we weren't. When the jobs came up where we were, looking for a cinema camera, oftentimes we're working with a DOP or a director, and they want to use a certain camera. They might want to use Arri, or they might want to use a red Raptor, or the Gemini was getting a bit old, but they want to use something for that project. So we're in that point at the moment. Are we? Did we buy another big cinema camera to have in house, or
No,
did we just
4D.
like, hire in the same way with lenses? You'd hire in the lenses you want to use for the bigger projects.
it's not really worth investing in the massive camera systems at this point. Like the one thing we learned is that it's better to have a good workhorse setup for like a lot of like the medium to small sized gigs, because it helps you work within those types of budgets, because those are for projects and clients that don't really care what camera is being used, as long as they're being delivered high quality stuff. That's all that matters, right? And from a business standpoint, that is a tool that's actually going to be making you money as a result in the long term. Whereas if you put, say, $50K into a cinema camera that gets used once or twice a year or 3
It's
times
just
a year
cheaper
on a
to
job,
rent it out at that point.
yeah, like and to your point, if you're working with people that constantly want different setups all the time, it's just throwing money away at that point. And the glamour of owning the latest Arri or the latest Red, it's the old school thinking when you just started out, right? It's like, oh, if only I had this camera, like that made sense back in the day, because like the cinema cameras, I remember like the C100 was like the first one that I really wanted to get as like a workhorse. But when you just spent like $1,500, $2K on a camera, and that's all you could afford, you're making like $500 a project, it's not easy to just justify $9,000, $10,000 to spend, in the beginning. Whereas now, it's crazy how low the barriers to entry are.
Yeah,
It makes sense if you're a freelancer, because that would elevate you to a certain level of project. Because if we knew someone that had a Red, for example,
we would just bring them on for those types of projects. So right away, they're opening themselves up to a ton of different types of gigs they can get, right? But as a business, like, it's just cheaper. Like, find the guy that has it and just bring him on.
Yeah. I mean, conversely, the one good thing about having something yourself. So, for example, with the Red, like, we didn't really need the Red. I wouldn't say the Red made its money back, but what it did do is it allowed us to have a really good setup that we could use for whatever we wanted, and not free of charge because we paid for it, but without the feeling of having to pay for it, to rent it out. So passion projects or just tinkering about it. I really enjoyed having that, but from a business perspective, probably not essential. But from a sort of creator and sort of creative point of view,
it was super exciting.
It was lovely to have it just there.
Yeah, when it turned up that day, it was like, oh my God, it was like 3 Christmases came at once when we played with the Red.
It turned up on my doorstep. The delivery man just left it on my doorstep. I wasn't there the whole day. I just came back. It was just in my flat. Like, oh, okay, cool.
Like an Amazon package. Here you go.
Yeah.
Hopefully no porch pirates were there to take a look.
Like, we had people literally stealing stuff from the letterboxes like a few weeks before. It was like, there's a Red camera on my doorstep. It's gone.
We had a nice juicy drop today, didn't we? We got some lenses that have showed up.
Yeah, we bought.
Cities.
Speaking of, it's kind of similar subject. So we wanted to get a nice set of primes because we just realised that it's kind of silly that we don't. But again, we wanted something that was like that mid-range, like a decent mid-range to fulfil all of those kind of jobs you mentioned, Kirill, like it's those kind of like mid-tier jobs where they want a really good image, something that's decent, but it doesn't have. They're not too specific on what lens exactly. So we got a set of Sigma Cines. We went for an unorthodox set as well, didn't we? So we went down to CVP. I don't know if you guys know CVP. It's the kind of biggest camera and like lighting retailer in the UK.
Is it like B&H? Is B&H that's America, isn't it?
B&H is more global, really, than anything. But
I guess it's like a Viztech equivalent.
Like Viztech for us.
So we went down to their showroom and just tested out a few lenses, and the Sigma Cines were the ones we decided on because they had a kind of more cleaner, clinical look. But there was an option of the 40mm rather than the 50mm. Well, we could have got the 50, but then it was like, why'd you get 50 under 40? But we just loved the 40, and we decided to build the set based on that being our 50. So we went for, was it 20mm, 35, 20mm, 28, 40, 65, 85, 105.
Look how excited they are.
Because they just got it today. They're ready to. They want to get off the podcast and go play with them.
I want to kind of bring the conversation a little, like, let's bring it off the gear talk, because I know a lot of our listeners don't want to hear about gear. I'm sorry, this is just what people tell me. But let's tie it into that. So, like, as a business, how do you guys go about like making like a big purchase decision or like an investment, right? Like, what are the decisions that kind of go into it?
Well, one thing that we've always had a lot of pride in is the fact that we've kind of bought kit outright, and we've taken a long time doing it. So it's I don't know if other people are doing what we're doing, but I love just owning something outright. If we can, I'd actually rather wait and save up and then just buy it rather than have it potentially on finance or leasing it or anything like that. So it might have been a slower way to grow, but in times like the pandemic, we didn't have overheads for kit. We just had everything. We knew we could just shut down shop and it's not going to cost anything, and when the world reopens, we can start shooting again. And also it means that we've always just got stuff to hand which is properly ours, and that's something that I've always sort of taken pride in. We've definitely not grown quickly in terms of kit. Everything's been very slow, but we've really considered every purchase. And kind of going back to what we were saying earlier about, okay, a cinema camera 2-3 times a year you might use it or really need it, so whereas with our FX6s, they're out every week, several times a week, so we know what we need and we know what's worth buying, and we've always just taken our time and just saved up and bought it.
I think it's it's how much you're going to use something, isn't it? I mean, also things that I like. I don't mind buying things like lighting, grip, lenses, because they're going to be used forever. I mean, some of the grip stuff we've got is going to outlive me and my grandkids. You know, lenses as well. If they're looked after properly, they're going to hold their value. They're going to keep. So it kind of doesn't really feel like. I mean, obviously it's a big purchase, but you're kind of putting your money in that thing, aren't you?
It's an asset.
Especially a lens, it's an asset. Yeah. Cameras, on the other hand, I think we take a longer decision, don't we, when it comes to cameras. I think we look at the market and we look at what other people are using. Oftentimes, we'll buy stuff based on the freelancers, the people that we're working with, because then you've got that synergy. If I know that like the 3 guys that I like to work with, DOPs, camera operators, have all got Sony FX6s, FX9s, then it's a perfect decision for us to buy into that equipment and that line. I think that's a big part of the choice, just assessing what other people are using in the people you like to work with. That can weigh under the decision.
So that's working with like you're basically like seeing like what the needs are of like your workflow, which is a big thing. And one thing as a business that you always need to do is figure out how to simplify your workflow, because if you can do that, then you're able to take on more projects in the long term. You're able to, wrap up projects a little bit quicker sometimes for people. If you're shooting with like 3 different cameras for a project, that's going to slow down the post a little bit because you have to match everything in that case. And that was actually one of the main decisions Dario and I also switched over to the Canon brand, was because most of the people we were working with were using Canons. I'm 100% certain if everyone around us was using Sonys, we probably would have stuck with Sonys as well. And you're kind of at the mercy of like your network and your market around you, because that's what the standard is, based on the people you work with. And like with cameras, it's more so you have to purchase something that you're going to get a lot of use out of, because it's not going to be an asset that you could sell. Whereas those lenses, if eventually you want to sell them, they will retain a lot of their value. But also what's good is that you could use them across a lot of different cameras. So it's all about what you're going to use as a business frequently, which makes sense as a purchase.
Do you guys have a like a budget that you set every year in terms of like gear purchases? Because that's kind of what we started doing, like for ourselves, is like every year we have like a certain bucket we can take money out of for equipment, and then whatever doesn't get used up just kind of gets poured over into the next year.
That's smart. I mean, we should do that. We don't really.
We sort of play it by ear, with how well the year's gone, sort of thing, and how new kits come out and that kind of thing. It's we don't have a set pot, but that's a great idea actually.
But going back to the whole productivity and sort of maximizing your workflow, there's so much stuff that we've bought in the last 2 years that I hadn't anticipated having to pay for. So things like offsite servers, our Parsec sort of machine. We've got a proper edit suite now where everything's plumbed in from like we've got Mark QNAP and a Synology. So all editing off that, no more sort of like external hard drives and all of that stuff and more edit machines for the staff. And that's all things like, in my head, I'm thinking cameras, lights, grip, the van, the fun stuff. But actually, what's really changed the game for us in the last 2 years in terms of efficiency has been all of that stuff. All the infrastructure has been amazing.
It's true.
Silly things as well.
That's a challenging one.
Yeah.
That's a challenging one to see, like with the servers and seeing what system will work there. Like for right now, with where we are as a business, we have a lot of backup drives for a lot of different projects that we're working off.
It's not the most efficient system. Actually,
it's not.
I would love to hear how you guys. Yeah, I would love to hear about your backup process.
I couldn't even tell you.
Go on,
I can tell you briefly if you want. But we used to be all on hard drives, remember the early days, all hard drives backing up onto physical drives all the time. Then we slowly moved into SSDs because they became more affordable. And now we've gone to a full QNAP system, which is just a big server, which is super fast to edit off, everyone plumbed into the same machine. So it's just a big hard drive. Then that backs up onto another system, which is your redundancy, which is like the older projects. So all like the newest projects, the ones that we're currently editing, sit on the fast server. Then every night that backs up onto one other server, and then after that process is complete, it backs up and comes to my house. So this is the third off-site backup, basically. We used to use Dropbox as that third off-site backup, but it just got too expensive. They hiked their prices up last year, and we just thought it would be way more tangible just to buy our own server, like big one-off cost, but it's a one-off cost. You don't have to pay a subscription service every time. It's just going up to like $9,000 a year or something like that. I think Dropbox wanted us to pay, which was not sustainable. They were like, no, not doing that. So just instead did the one-off cost, and we'll make our money back within a few years.
I don't know how they don't get to. I don't know about Dropbox. So I know Google Drive says you get like unlimited in a certain tier, but it's not. You're capped at 14. I think it's 14 terabytes, something like that. So it's
okay.
It's a total lie. I don't know how they don't get sued for that.
The online backup approach is always hazy because it's such a huge recurring cost, and that's why we're still like in the limbo of like we mainly work off of SSDs, and then we use like tower hard drives as main backups when projects are done and archived and stuff like that. And it's okay as a system right now because of the certain volume of work that we have, but like if we start getting a huge influx, it's gonna become a challenge. And I've been looking into so many different, NAS drives, tower drive setups and backups like you guys probably do. And like the problem is it's so expensive and it's like, what can you figure out really works for you, or how can you anticipate what will work for you, right? That's the kind of challenge.
Have you guys used that Google Drive? I don't know if Dropbox has an equivalent, but Google has like it's not like part of Drive. It's
enterprise.
It's like some deep. It's like it's for like long-term storage. So like you upload it there, and then it costs like fractions of a cent per megabyte or something like that. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
I've heard of it. I think they don't like put the servers like deep in the sea or something like that to keep them cool. Is it that thing?
Probably. I just know it's like fractions of a cent per like every megabyte or something like that. It's not that expensive, to be honest with you. It just looks very tech focused. So I kind of like looked at it a little bit and said, "This is way over my head."
Right. Yeah.
I would say get a company into it. So who do we use? Juplia?
Yeah, there's a company called Juplia.
Because it's complicated.
They're specialists in that field, like specialists in post-production, like video production in our country as well. They've serviced a bunch of other companies, and we sort of had a system in place with the server already. But when we wanted to upgrade the system and have like off-site backup, we got them involved, and they really helped with advice and stuff, and just made it all flow.
I think the key thing as well, wasn't it, is that as our team was growing, we needed the infrastructure to support that team. So like rather than having the drives that we're working off originally, that would be fine if it was always the same editor. But we're often it might be John is working on an animation for a project, then it needs to go back to Ray because she's working on a different aspect of the project. Everyone could work off that same drive because everyone's connected to the same drive. So it wasn't just like a space or security thing. It was just a matter of, as our team grew, we needed that.
Also, just meeting the demands of like working from home expectations and stuff like that. So with our system now, anyone can remotely edit off of the actual footage. They're not using proxies or anything like that. They could just beam in and edit off of the server, which has been huge. And also that could be really handy with booking freelancers. We're not tied into, are you free to physically come here on this day, or do we have to ship a drive to you? No, they can just log in and just edit on our system. So it has been really good.
How does that work? So they don't have to download the footage? It's all online?
It's all on a server, Dario. It's like there's such interesting systems I've seen out there, and like they're not cheap though. It's because you also need like a lot of terabytes.
Wait, like is the editing like? I'm assuming you guys use Premiere Pro.
Yeah.
Resolve. Okay, so how does that work? It's connected. Like you don't have to download any footage. It's just
this software called Parsec, which is free. Everyone can get it, and it just basically allows two computers to talk to each other. But it's really low latency, really like fast, and we've had a few problems with it, but nothing significant. We'll get like a freelancer in, and they'll just beam straight in.
So we've got a machine set up,
yeah.
We've got a dedicated machine for this, yeah.
It's called Parsec.
Parsec's the software, and you just use that software to remotely access another computer, and you just use your peripherals. Like here right now, if I wanted to edit something in the office, I just use Parsec, use my mouse and keyboard, and I'll just be controlling that computer, and you'll just be sitting in the office seeing like little ghost cursor moving around doing all the work.
It's how I
interesting.
It's how I know that Mark's actually working when he's working from home. I just look over.
Ghost Mark.
But yeah, we access the server and use the server there basically.
Yeah.
And your servers are in 3 locations, right? Your office, offsite, and then at Mark's place, right?
Yeah, so we've got this a backup, like the primary edit servers in the office. Then there is a backup in the office as well, just in case we needed to get something from the archive. And then I have the offsite one here as well. And we still residually have some Dropbox storage as well, but I'm getting rid of that soon.
How do we get onto this? In terms of investing in kit. So yeah, this is the kind of thing like that. That has been a massively more of a game changer, I think, for us over the last few years than any lenses or cameras or tripods or all of the fun stuff. Actually,
what about people? What are you guys doing to invest in your people?
Well, what do you mean, investing in the people that we already have, or do you mean how are we recruiting?
Let's focus on the people you already have. Like, how do you help them grow within your company?
Yeah, so we've got a couple of things. So the team's pretty much, obviously myself, Dan and Mark sort of run it, and we have our own sort of specialities. And then we've got John, who's our head of post-production. Kin is a shooter editor. Ray is an editor. And then Sarah is our newest member of the team, and she's a producer. In terms of helping them grow, there's a couple of new initiatives we've started in the last year. So one of them is our passion project initiative. So we have invited everyone to pitch any passion projects idea that they have to us, and as a team we'll choose the one that we all like the sound of the most, both in terms of how fun it is, how cool it is, and also how achievable it is. And then Rise as a company will facilitate it and fund it. So you've got all of Rise's kit and some money behind it to make it happen. And other than that, just being really on it with like team reviews. So a couple of times a year, making sure that we're doing a team review with each member of the team to get their thoughts as to what we could be doing better, what we could be providing them with, and also the direction that they would like their job to go in. So that's kind of it. It's very simple stuff. I think that's
important. I think that's important because you can get bogged into the day to day doing the same stuff, but then everyone has those moments. Am I doing what I want to be doing? So I think it's about giving people that voice.
In the past, we've always done like our directors sort of biz dev chats, just the three of us. But we've started now. We still do that. Obviously, there are some decisions that we have to make, but we've opened it up to the team. So we're not sure at the moment if it's going to be at the end of every month or maybe every quarter. We've just done our first one, but it was really beneficial where we opened that chat up to the whole team. So we're talking to the whole team about topics which previously only us as company directors were discussing, and it was brilliant, wasn't it? Like it was great.
It was like a company therapy session. Yeah, it was really good.
And I think it helps them to feel more engaged and connected with the actual company and the direction that we're taking, rather than just being told, right, we're doing this now. So
another thing, Dario, would be I think that retention is a word we use. So like, we really like the team we have here, and it's important to us to keep them. The hardest part is like finding good people. So that's why we spend a little bit more on the office that we have here. We could be in an office that maybe isn't as nice, but we spend a little bit more to be in a place that we all enjoy coming to every day. We do little other things, little perks like gym memberships, healthcare,
medical,
that kind of stuff. We like to keep everyone happy.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, because you mentioned being more open with your employees, kind of like about the business and the direction you guys want to go in and whatnot. How do you decide what to divulge and what not to divulge? Because obviously, like, you can't be 100% open. So how do you choose what to say and what not to say?
I don't think it's a case of not being open. It's just these certain things. I'm not going to go discussing profit and loss. No one's asking me those questions anyway, so it's just fairly straightforward. But
we're pretty open, actually. There's not much that we don't really speak about. Yeah.
No, if it's like, look, we've had a really good quarter this year. We've got some spare money. We're going to buy some lenses. Example, we'd just be open about it, and we're very grateful for people's thoughts. It might be a member of the team's like, have you thought about maybe not getting the lenses, and then we have to think about it, or have you thought about getting something else? We're pretty open, and I
think it comes back to what we were saying, isn't it? Like, I think it's that team ethos. We're all friends, kind of, aren't we? Everyone's friends here, and we're pretty open about everything.
Yeah, sounds like you guys have like a good synergy between everyone, and like that's kind of what you've been aiming for the last little while. But one thing I was actually curious also about was what was the first one or two hires that you felt you needed to make to really make the business kind of grow and expand in a meaningful way for you guys?
John was sat over there right now. John was our first hire. And John is an editor. John's a fantastic editor, animator. And I think that was it. Wasn't because I've never been too much of an editor myself. I can edit. I'm not a good editor. I prefer shooting, directing. So the editing front kind of fell more on Mark and Mike. And it was at a point where we were getting busier with production. So Mike was sort of being drafted in more to be on shoots with me. So then more and more editing fell on Mark. So that was the first, I think, pinch point.
It was a bottleneck,
yeah. And you guys know editing can just take forever, can't it? You go out and do a shoot, it's usually that day. Editing can go on for weeks. So that was our first kind of pinch point that we wanted to address. And then more it was recently, kind of production, really, isn't it? Like after, like just in terms of pre-production, organising, logistics, call sheets, quotes, invoices, all of that kind of stuff, and creatives too. Coming up with concepts, pitch decks, that kind of stuff. So I think a good creative producer is a great person to have. Someone who can do the more admin, the spreadsheet stuff, but can also be really creative when they need to be. That's a good skill to have.
The order in which we sort of hired was John was editor first, then we hired Katie, who's now left us actually, but she was like a editor producer, a bit of a hybrid sort of role. Then we hired Ray, because again it was the editing was the bottleneck for us for a long time. So Ray's an editor. And then we hired Kin, and Kin was our first shooter, so full-time shooter editor, and he takes a lead role in all of our equipment, so everything to do with that side of things. And then most recently we promoted John to head of post-production, so he's now, the idea is as we bring more editors in, he's going to oversee them. And most recently we've hired Sarah, who's our first producer, and that's been really nice having a producer, because before that it was me, Dan and Mark produced and organised everything.
And
so
Katie
having
was there as well,
and Katie, of course, so that's been a huge
something
help.
I was going to ask you guys actually. How do you find when it comes to the producing of projects? Sorry, there's a police car going by.
Yeah, wait for that car.
How do you guys manage the sort of producing side of things, pre-production, because that can get really on top of you, and then the shooting, the editing? How do you manage that side of working in the business compared to working on the business? Taking that time to sit back and reflect. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but we find that has been an ongoing challenge over the years, to find a time for the three of us, or even just two of us, to sit aside for a couple of hours or half a day and be like, okay, we're not doing anyone's work today. We're just thinking about Rise and how we move it forward.
I figured that would have been easier for you guys to do, because you have three. There's three of you, right? With Carol and I, it's just two, but with three, and then it seems like the division of labor between you guys is pretty well divided, right? Like you have Mark working on the tech and the look of all your content, and Dan, I'm assuming you're the sales and growth guy. No?
I don't know.
No, I think Mike was.
Is it Mike?
That's more me. Dan's a creative.
Okay.
And is also a director. Yeah. Mark's background is and skill set is editing and the tech stuff, but he also does a lot of company stuff, so accounts, all of that stuff. Poor Mark. Look at him. Great.
I do a lot of producing as well, so a lot of client communications and organising all the shoots, doing call sheets and all that kind of thing, getting teams together, talking to freelancers, getting kit booked in. I do a lot of the day-to-day stuff when we're planning shoots, but
you know what though, mate?
You're less and less shoots.
You're a fantastic director. You really are.
You are.
You're really good.
Whenever you directed a few crackers.
Shower of love.
No, he is. He doesn't think it, but when Mark takes on a project and directs it, I reckon you're probably better than me and Mike. You're so thorough really with it, and you know exactly what you want. And that's.
Oh, thanks, mate. It's not often I get a compliment, so thanks very much.
That's the business partner talking, not the friend, right?
But yeah,
the showering of love.
Our roles, that took a long time, didn't it, to fall into? For the longest time, we'd be we'd put in our profiles up on the website, and we'd look at other people's websites and say, what have they named themselves? And it'd be this person's the CEO, or this person's head of this, head of that, and we were just like, what do we put down something just for the sake of it? Because at the time we were all just doing a little bit of everything, and I think in the end, it took us a very long time to fall into the roles that we have done. We're talking over 10 years, and even today we still do a bit of a mixture of everything. But I think that's kind of the nature of the work.
Yeah.
And it keeps things fresh as well, doesn't it? You're not always doing the same thing every time.
It's nice to be able to do a bit of everything as well, because you don't need to do the same thing all the time. You don't need to just be editing, you don't need to just be shooting. It's nice to, in this industry, there are lots of different ways to enjoy yourself, and I guess we've sort of held on to that as we've grown. We'd like to sort of dip our toe into a shoot every now and then, or like Mike dip his toe into an edit every now and then, or do a creative somewhere else. It's nice.
I went through a phase where I was directing a bunch and I really enjoyed it, and I think I burnt out a little bit doing that. And like now I'm really enjoying always tapping into early Rise Media days. So I'm back on like biz dev, lead generation, social media posts, that sort of stuff. So yeah, I think we all chop and change a little bit. How about you guys? How do you split your sort of work?
It took us a while to figure out what our roles were as well. We ran into the same issue where we were trying to do the same stuff, and for some things, like the other guy's just better, so like we kind of, I think last 2-3 years we kind of figured out who's good at what, and we just let the other person take care of that. So for example, on our shoot, like I would say if it's like business development or stuff like that, or sales, like I'll take over that side of the business, and then Kirill will take more of like the creative aspect. But he's also good at like client management at times, right? So I'm good at bringing them in, and then Kirill's good at keeping them. That's a good way to break it.
Yeah, that's actually a good way to put. That's actually
two different skills.
Yeah. There's like in this industry, obviously you have to be a bit of a Swiss Army knife with everything. Be really good at one thing, but know how to do a lot of the other aspects of the business. Because if you don't know how to do those other aspects, it's harder to do a lot of everything else, right? So like Dario can handle some of the creative aspects as well, but it's easier for him to focus on just sales and business development because that's his skill set, right? But he knows what goes into those other aspects. He knows what I can handle, and then that's what he can kind of pitch clients on when he's first bringing them in. And then like when I'm doing creative, I understand like what it takes to pitch to a client, so I understand what limitations there are. It's like you can't pitch an idea that would cost $20,000 when the budget really is only 10K or 5K.
Yeah.
So there are those aspects, and like Dario does handle some client accounts where he's doing a lot of like the face-to-face communication and then handling coordination with other freelancers, and then I just kind of oversee the creative in that area, whereas there's other situations where I'm handling the clients and the creative, and then Dario's just like a second set of eyes just to help make sure that things are kind of on track. So we're kind of like helping support each other with whatever projects and clients we're working with. But if we really broke it down, that's the way Dario put it was best. He brings them in and I keep them.
The main thing is communication, isn't it? Like you can have the different roles, and switch around, but it's about when you get on a project. I think the three of us are very good at communicating on from the get-go. Okay, I'm directing this, or I'm producing this, or I'm going to take on the client communication for this. And as long as you've got that communication clear from the start, then you can all fit into those roles.
Yeah, and with us, like what usually happens is, like, let's say we're both going to be on set for that project. Like, I'll handle the producing for that, and then we'll co-direct it, and then Kirill will usually be the DP for it, right? So clients actually get a pretty sweet deal because they get technically two producers for the price of one. But yeah, that's usually like what our breakdown is. And again, even with our projects, let's say like I'm involved in like the creative aspect and the shooting. If we start post and I get busy with other stuff, like Kirill just takes over and oversees it. Or even with the pre-production, if I get busy bringing in like other people or focusing on other projects, then Kirill will just take over. And I'll basically be like a client thermometer in a way, because I notice my talent is like kind of like knowing what the client thinks. So I'll be looking at our stuff and then I'll tell Kirill, it's like, I don't think they're gonna like this. So then he gets upset at me, and then I let him calm down, and then it gets done.
It's like you work all that time on like a creative vision aspect for it, and then it's looking great, and then it's like, oh, but we can't include that shot because the client won't like that. It's like, oh, damn it, then you have to like figure out a cool way to kind of swap it out. But a lot of the time it is better, because then you're also getting creative in other ways to kind of push past that first initial idea as well, because sometimes client limitations can actually be to your benefit, because it gives you like borders of like what you can kind of work with, and then how can you make something awesome with those limitations. It's like, how, like, say for example, one thing a client says is like, create a whole video that doesn't show any particular faces other than like the one person, right? And then you have to develop a creative with that limitation in mind.
I need to send this recording to you, Kirill, anytime you oppose what I tell you.
Yeah, I know, right?
This recorded bit, I'm just gonna save it and then just save it.
Yeah, and then I'm gonna.
First stage is denial, and then what? The second one is acceptance.
Yeah.
I think that's a very normal push-pull within our industry, though, because you've got the side of us that just wants to make cool videos, and then we've got the side of us which is trying to earn money and please a client. So it's always, it sounds like you guys got a healthy way to manage that.
It's also a budget thing as well, isn't it? Because, you know, you say like client limitations, that could also just be, you know, what budget you've got to work with. That's one of the things I always quite often end up saying to clients who maybe aren't so used to working in video production is they'll be like, how much is it going to cost to make this video? And it's, how long's a piece of string? You know, you could take that same exact brief and go and shoot it on free GoPros, or you could be shooting it on free, you know, Alexa Mini. So it's you could take the same brief and scale it up and down as much as you need, and I think that's one of the things you've got to just find that balance of with the client limitations, the budget, all of that stuff.
And kind of
biggest
what's
challenge
right for them, right?
Yeah, the biggest challenge though that is oftentimes I think the most frustrating for a lot of people is when they are asking for a certain kind of creative, or at least a certain kind of type of coverage. Even like, say for example, it's an event that you have to create a promo video for. There are so many things that are happening, but they only want to pay for like one person to show up, or max two, when you know in fact that you need at least 3 people to get that kind of coverage.
Yeah,
that's the most frustrating thing, because then when, you know, you obviously have to compromise, you know, in those situations where it's like, okay, this needs 3 people, but they only have enough for 2. How are we gonna get this done? A lot of what you have to do is communicate to them beforehand. Is like, hey, you know, what you're asking for is the work of 3 people. We will do what we can in this situation based on what you're able to pay for, but you know, that's usually the biggest push pull I find, where it's like where you need a little bit more hands on deck when not, because like when you think about it, like say for example, if you were to hire, like a client hired you to shoot a promo video for them, but they had only enough for like say one shooter to show up, right? But that one shooter now has to take extra time to set up the shot, unpack the gear, bring it in, do the light test, do the sound check. Like one person doing everyone's role takes more time, so you can shoot less in that day, right? Oops, what happens? You might have to come in for a second day, right? So there is that kind of like aspect you have to communicate as well. It's like, you know, you can hire less crew, but it's going to be slower too, right?
I think we've noticed that with when it comes to there's so many people out there now who do offer video production as a service. You know, there's a lot of like people who are very good at being what we call like a one-man band. You know, turn up on your own, you do the camera, you do the lighting, you do the sound, and that's perfectly fine. Like, you know, you can get great results like that. But I think we've got into a stage now where we're quite confident on being able to say to a client, and I think it's important to be able to say to a client that that's not how we would do this, that's not how we would advise to run this shoot, this is how we would do it. You know, and you can work with those budgets, but I think there is, because the scene is so competitive, you know, you're competing against all of those
and sometimes you'd be surprised about how the client reacts to that, you know, rather than sort of saying, okay, well, we can do it with 2 people, but we would recommend 4. If you just say we're not going to do that and we don't advise that you do it because of this, because, you know, it's more risky, you know, there's more room for error on the day, or we might need to come back for a second day, which is going to cost you more than if you just hired the 4 people to begin with. Oftentimes the response is actually really good, and they'll either say, thank you, we can't work with you on this project, but we really respect your decision to turn the job down, and they might come back, or they may well say, we take your point and maybe we can look at our budgets and up them.
And if you're also firm like that, the one big benefit is that you're also protecting yourself from being portrayed as a company that doesn't do a good job, because unfortunately what will happen is that when there are those limitations, and a company who obviously needs the work, needs the money, is going to say yes and try to figure out a way to do it. If anything does happen, where the video doesn't turn out as the client expected, to them and to anyone else, it's not going to matter what the context was or the circumstances. They're just going to be like, that's what that company produced. Yeah. That wasn't good enough. We're not going to hire them again, right? So you also want to be able to protect your reputation to a degree, and it's challenging sometimes, especially when you're working with clients that have such specific oversight too, that start being very like a little too involved in the process of the video that you're making. Then whatever they suggest, like, completely butchers what you're making, and then you can't show that to other people, because then people are going to be like, oh, that wasn't good what you made, right? So you have to vet clients in that way, whether they can afford what's needed to do for you to do your job and to do a good job, or how, like, I don't know if the word meddling is the right way, but or like kind of like too many cooks in the kitchen type approach, because no matter what, you can never fully escape that. Once in a while, you're going to be dealing with the client that has like 50 stakeholders who want to give their input so that they can say they contributed to that project, right?
I really see having a happy client at the end of the project as a fine art, and it's not necessarily to do with how good the video is, it's all to do with their expectations compared to in relation to how good the video is, right? So if they're expecting the world and you're not delivering it, even if it's an amazing video, they're not going to be happy. But if you can outdo their expectations, then even if it's not an amazing video by your standards, they're going to be happy. So whether that's delivering on time, whether it's being able to achieve quite a lot on a small budget, or whatever it is. So there's definitely a lot of education that you can sort of provide to the client to help set yourself up for a successful delivery, I think, at the end of the project.
One of the lines I've used quite a few times, and it's completely true, is, if a budget's not quite there for you to be able to do the job, it's not even just about like, because I often say, I don't feel like we can complete this project to a quality I know you will be happy with. So it's not even about what I think, it's that I know that they're not going to be happy with the quality of the outcome. You kind of put it on their expectations. You can look at their previous work, what the brand looks like, how, and you can get an idea of what they're going to expect, and then you can say to them, I don't think I can do this to a quality that you're going to be expecting.
That's a good way to put it, for sure. With when you phrase it like that to them, it's going to basically make the onus on them. It's like, it's not my ability it's not me that's hindering the ability. It's like what you're providing me as a resource. Like, there's not much I can do, and that's definitely a good way to put it. The client experience is so key, and as you guys put it, sometimes you do a video for a client where it's obviously not your best work, but it's very much in line with what they're hoping for, and even better than what they're expecting. But you created such a great customer experience of how you listened to them, communicated with them, delivered the project for them. Even though it's not your Spielberg level film, they're very happy with that. Whereas, as you said, sometimes in other cases you produce something so great, but the client needed it like in a certain way or in a certain timeline that was difficult to deliver based on the resources. Yeah. Even though the video turned out great, the experience wasn't as great. So that's what they're going to remember. They're going to remember how you made them feel as well.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. We always say that, on a shoot day, it's kind of like, it's our day to day. It's what we do all the time. So I love going on shoots, but for the client, that might be the one shoot day they do that whole year. That's a fun day for them. They're out the office. So we always do our utmost to make that day fun for the client too. Like, and I think that comes back to it as well. You're giving them that positive experience. Customer service is everything, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And on that note, I think we should probably wrap this up because we're at the 1 hour mark. But before we do, as is tradition, how did you guys come up with the company name?
Do you know what?
I remember at university when we came up with it. I remember it, but I don't know how we came up with it. I think it's because we were quite sort of like politically minded. Do you remember?
Yes,
like, rise
yes.
up.
This is right. This is true. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, we were going through the whole what was that documentary? Zeitgeist. We were going through that phase, like the Zeitgeist phase, where it was like, we were edgy teens, and it was like very rebellious kind of thing. So I think
Did
that
you guys have like a Che Guevara T-shirt?
I didn't go that far.
Mike might have done.
Yeah, I didn't go that far, but yeah, we were quite edgy at the time. I think.
Edgy.
I think some of our first productions were pretty cringe, but it's probably to do with that, And then we had the peaks with the logo, which we liked, and it all kind of came together.
Like mountain kind of thing.
Our first logo was way too spiky.
Yeah, it was very spiky, the first logo.
Yeah.
One of our friends was a graphic designer at uni, and he put together like a few logo ideas, and he gave us that logo, and it sort of married quite well with Rise. I kind of regret the word media. I kind of want to move away from Rise Media, because no one ever calls us Rise Media. It's mainly just the Rise guys. People call us.
You heard it here first.
Ah, nice.
You heard it here first. We're rebranding Rise.
I don't know. I'm
announcement.
probably not going to do that.
He said
The Rise guys?
I'm down for that.
Yeah.
The Rise
I
guys.
kind of like that name.
I like
That's-
that one a bit more too.
That's a good one.
We've got another social media account which is called the Rise Guys. So that refers to me, Dan, and Mark as directors, and that's from the client saying, "Oh, let's get the Rise Guys on it." But Rise Media as a company. But yeah, maybe we should change just to Rise. I like Rise. Rise is cool.
Yeah.
The Rise folks, the Rise group. And we're throwing some ideas at you.
Yeah.
Actually, there is one more question that I did want to ask also, and this is something we might be asking future guests. What would you guys say is your dream project that you want to do, or like the dream client that you want to work with?
I think you'd have to ask each of us individually.
Because that's what I'm doing. Yes, individually.
Okay. I would love to work on like an outdoor clothing brand, something like a piece of brand content for that, something like that. So, the likes of like North Face or Arc'teryx, and be shooting a piece of like active brand content out in the mountains somewhere, the Alps, let's say.
Nice.
I'm pretty similar to that, to be honest. I'm into what Dan's saying there. I quite like mini documentaries, like branded documentaries, that kind of thing. We did some stuff for the BBC at the beginning of last year, which is really enjoyable, and I'd just love to do more stuff like that, just short form mini documentaries which tell real stories and that have purpose,
I really like the property video side of what we do and some of the lifestyle stuff that we do, so it's more cinematic with a better production. And I'd love to transfer that into either a really nice global hotel brand or super yachts. That's what I'd like to do. I want to go to the sun and shoot using a drone and a 4D, and I don't want too many crew on it, just to be me and a few other people, and just shoot some really
and a couple
nice
of beers,
stuff.
Couple
A couple of pints, right?
Yeah, a couple of pints. Yeah, that's what
I like that.
Also different.
Yeah.
I like that though. It's like you guys all have little personal goals within the business you want to do, and just support each other and like doing that. That's great. Actually, mine is very similar to Mark's as well, in doing a lot more like short form mini documentary projects, because that's not one that we get to do too often with a lot of our corporate software and tech clients, obviously, because there's a lot of promotional aspects that go into that. But that is one thing in the future.
Nice.
All right, well, if you guys want to find these guys online, go to risemedia.co.uk. It's very different from just .com. All right.
Someone else has that domain.
And social media is for Instagram at risemedia.uk. You guys on TikTok or?
Not on TikTok.
Nah, just
Should we be on TikTok? Should we get on TikTok?
I guess that's if it's not going to get banned.
Yeah, I know. If you lose the US, there goes 330 million people you can promote. But yeah. Anyways, thanks guys.
Thank you guys
We
so
appreciate
much.
it.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah,
Nice one,
You guys have
guys.
been great.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Creatives Grab Coffee. Please make sure to follow and engage with us on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, and your favorite podcast app.
Creatives Grab Coffee is created by Labs Productions, a video production company based in Toronto, Canada.
Creatives Grab Coffee is also sponsored by...
My name is Miran. Welcome to Canada Film Equipment. We are a boutique rental house based in Toronto. We are here to help you guys out with all production sizes. Feel free to contact us to get a quote if you are a production house and you're looking for lighting, camera packages, or lighting and grid fan packages. You can see our contact information in the link below. We are more than happy to help you guys out. Make sure you follow and subscribe to creativesgrabcoffee.com. Thank you.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Matt. Welcome to Audio Process. We are a boutique audio company doing location sound, sound design, post-sound, ADR, Foley. We service equipment. We do all your audio needs here in Toronto. We got you covered. Come on down, audioprocess.ca. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and all of the other internet things to creativesgrabcoffee.com. They'll be waiting for you. I'll be waiting for you, and we're all going to have a real good time.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next one.